You are welcome back to BMS channel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depending on wherever you are watching us from, you're welcome back. I want to first of all thank the American government, ably led by Donald Trump, and Dodge, led by Elon Musk. They have really done a noble work to Nigerians. Now you know, your favorite USAID office funded Boko Haram. We suspected that. We suspected that. But we want to say thanks to Elon Musk. When Jonathan was fighting Boko Haram, even NHRC attacked him for human rights violation. US refused to sell fighting aircraft. They refused to sell fighting aircraft to Nigerians without us knowing that they are even the ones sponsoring Boko Haram. Guys, I want you to watch this video. It's a little bit lengthy, but I want you to watch the video so that you understand how these men were funding Boko Haram in Nigeria. But remember, if this is your first time of watching our channel, please feel free to subscribe to our channel, like our videos, share our videos, and please don't forget to turn on the notification bell in order to be getting our updates. Watch the video, guys.
And if you're wondering who's in charge of Afghanistan getting the money, and that money I just mentioned, the $697 million is on top of, and is in addition to the weekly to every 10-day shipments in cash of $40 to $80 million. Afghanistan is ruled by folks named Sarayuddin Haqqani. The Haqqani network mean anything to anybody in the room? How about Abdullah bin Laden? Who gets some of that money? Does that name ring a bell to anybody in the room? Because your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds madrasas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Bokoharam, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding. If you think that the program under Operation Enduring Sentinel, entitled Women's Scholarship Endowment, which receives $60 million annually, or the Young Women Lead, which gets about $5 million annually, is going to women who, by the way, if you read the Inspector General's report, is telling you that the Taliban does not allow women to speak in public. Yet somehow you're believing, and American people are supposed to believe, that this money is going for the betterment of the women in Afghanistan. It is not. You are funding terrorism, and it's coming through USAID. And it's not just Afghanistan.
The $40 million a week that comes on the airplane and comes into Afghanistan. So the plane comes in weekly. The amount of money on the plane weekly is $43 million to $87 million. But one thing I want Americans to understand is in that bucket of the $40 million we send each week, we are paying basically welfare to the Taliban martyrs' families. So every Taliban member who died during the war with us, the U.S. government is paying them a stipend, the families. So our families of Americans who died there aren't getting squat, but we are paying Taliban families for basically dying while attacking us.
Whoa.
Yes, we're funding that.
This is just enraging.
And, you know, I asked a couple of people that question straight out, like, do you not think this is not ethically correct? And actually one person gave me an answer of, well, it'll stop them from joining ISIS. I'm like, the Taliban guy's already dead. Like, they give you these bullshit excuses as to why they're funding, like, our enemies.
You don't understand that the U.S. government has been running what created Al-Qaeda and ISIS since 1978? Zbigniew Brzezinski, it's public. It's not even debatable. I mean, you understand the CIA and Mossad funded and controlled the hijackers or whatever they did on 9/11. That's like Fox News came out in 2001. You understand Israel created Hamas, right? That's what our governments do. They're criminal. The Israeli government does horrible, nasty, criminal stuff. The British government does it. The U.S. government does it. They all do it. They're all in the same sick club. I'm so sick of hearing, they're just incompetent. They don't know that's what, they didn't know when they gave $86 billion of weapons in the pullout that would end up being used in Syria. What? They didn't know. They didn't know the spike protein would turn off people's white blood cells and give them vaccine-induced AIDS. That's just what it does. They knew 45 years ago. That Alex Jones, he's really whacked out. Yeah. He just talks fast. That's just a bunch of gibberish coming out of his mouth. Bullshit.
The government fears Alex Jones, who has the largest audience in the country, bigger than any of the networks, the biggest megaphone in the country.
The deep state hates Alex Jones with a vengeance.
Alex Jones is the most extraordinary person I've ever met.
All right, I started to get into Pam Bondi and the $2.7 trillion they found stolen. I didn't finish that, so I'm going to do that next segment. This is a short segment. And then I'm going to tie it in with the real target here that's not being discussed, except by the great Tucker Carlson and this broadcast. So you really want to know where the corruption's at that we can't get at right now with just Trump. We're going to break down one of the enemy strongholds, their most powerful domestically, when we come back. They're having Senate hearings right now, congressional hearings. I can't even keep track of it. Here's one of the congressmen talking about a subject I'm going to be getting into later in more detail. U.S. aid Taliban money laundering scheme. Big article has come out about that. All the funding of Al-Qaeda and ISIS and all these groups. We're talking about billions and billions and billions of our government through USAID and other groups funding this. Here's a breakdown in Congress.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. USAID was created through executive order in 1961 by President Kennedy, long having lost and strayed from its mission, lost its direction. Even the Clinton administration tried unsuccessfully to reform it. And we spend, I don't know, somewhere between $40 and $50 billion annually on this organization. And with the things that you hear, well, many of us, probably most of us in this room, agree with projecting America's power for the good of all the world around the globe. Quite honestly, if our enemies were asked to design a foreign aid program that would actively undermine the United States of America at maximum cost to the taxpayer, they would be hard-pressed to create a scheme more effective than USAID. That's shocking to say, but I just, it's, look, let's just go to a couple things here. We left Afghanistan, and I'll just I'll characterize it as left in August of 2021. August of 2021. So the Taliban's in charge. Taliban threatens the lives of the NGO personnel distributing USAID. They claim credit for USAID distribution. They interfere with the distribution of USAID aid. They tax the beneficiary of the aid. They tax the delivery service. They steal the food commodities. They divert the funds. They extort citizens for protection for USAID aid. They create sham procurement schemes, and they threaten the lives of those who oppose those schemes. Now, that all occurred before August of 2021, when we were there. Now, you know, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You could just read the Taliban is classified, and if you don't know, the Taliban's in charge of Afghanistan. They're classified as a specially designated global terrorist organization by OFAC. So post-2021, so this is last year, 2024, we spent $697 million of the taxpayers' dollars in Afghanistan, including $534,719,000 in change from USAID in Afghanistan. I don't know what we think we're going to change in Afghanistan. We lost 22,000, lost or wounded 22,500 Americans in Afghanistan over the course of our term there in the war, spending over $2 trillion. We're just going to keep on spending because somehow we think it's going to get better. And if you
I'm going to break down the rest of the story when we come back. All right, I want to finish up with Representative Perry speaking about USAID and the incredible betrayal that we have been witnessing, funding the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, all of it. And it's not like they're idiots who don't know this. They've been funding them since the late 1970s, and they use them against other countries. They just use them against Syria. They just put the current head of Al-Qaeda is the new head of Syria. CNN, I played weeks ago, like, this guy's really good. Sure, he used to be the leader of Al-Qaeda, but now he's not, and he's a good guy. Look, he let people have Christmas time. He let Christians go to church, didn't kill them. Of course, then they now are, that the media isn't paying attention to it. And so we've had CIA whistleblowers and others come out about it, but they know exactly what they're doing. And then they use it to attack America. And the congressman was saying, you couldn't come up with policies better to hurt the country. And then all over the world, they export sexualization of children, transgenderism. That's what people think of America worldwide. That is done to make the world turn against America and accept the Chinese that come in and give them wells and electricity and hydroelectric dams and factories and railroads. So on one hand, they create and fire up these Islamic terror groups so they can take out enemies but also attack us and then take our liberties away. That's well documented forever. And then they also go around with all this super unpopular stuff around the world, so the world hates us and rejects us. This is all formulaic, set up America for collapse. And they got us right up to the point of it. And Trump's going in and auditing thousands of these organizations and groups, not just the hundreds of federal agencies. What is there? 500 big ones? Thousands of sub ones? I mean, this morning I spent like an hour reading over the list. I mean, and I knew most of them, but I had to remind myself that I was reading a bunch I'd never even heard of. You'd think I know, but I mean, it's 500 of them. 520-something big agencies, 523, and then there was like 3,000 sub-agencies and 1.5 million NGOs in the U.S. alone. That's not counting nonprofits. I can't even, it's... Let me explain it this way, and I'll get back to the terrorism and all the other news. The United States won World War II and was the new global superpower, and the world accepted our currency. And we had half the middle class in the world in 1950 was in the United States. Let me explain that again. The world did not have a middle class anywhere, a big one. We taught the world how to have one. And the globalists came in and said, we don't want Americans rich and successful and all this. We want to control this. We're going to just start siphoning the power and the money out and pass laws and regulations that deindustrialize the United States, and then we'll control that as the middlemen. That's globalism, a screw job. They use communism at the grassroots to control people, but it's really a corporate, monopolistic, fascist system that has a transhumanist, eugenics, social Darwin culture, an anti-animist philosophy, anti-human. And Elon Musk talks about being at the meetings with all the top tech people a decade ago, or longer. And they're like, yeah, we want to get rid of the humans. Yeah, there's too many of them. Oh, come on. Stop defending humanity, Elon. We need less people, not more. And they would call it, you're an animist. That just means pro-human. Team Humanity. So I know it's hard to wrap your mind around the fact that they really hate our guts, but they do. And now Trump's getting into all these NGOs like the Kennedy Center that's such an elite globalist combine. And they just found out it's totally bankrupt, maxed out everywhere. Everybody's stealing the money. And why would they do that? Because they know the collapse was coming, and they were stealing as much as they could ahead of time, and then they were going to manage the collapse as if they were our saviors and bring in totally draconian social controls on record. That's the Great Reset. So Elon Musk at the World Government Forum this morning, middle of the night here, told them they were going to have a big war for their reset and the shutdown of society. And so we're just having a war against their bureaucracy for the real reset because we're in the fourth turning, which is what I told you 10 years ago, 6 months ago, yesterday. And it's not that Elon Musk is saying what Alex Jones says. It's how the world works. And I'm sitting here knowing the power structures, knowing the groups, knowing their different philosophies, the plans. And I'm like, this is really horrible. And I got people for decades going, oh, come on, man, you don't know all that stuff. You can go find out about it. This is actually the real world. And just what you could do in business with this knowledge for yourself, much less save civilization. That's why everything I talk about decades ago is like exactly in the news now, because this is what I do. I don't sit up here and talk out of my ass at you. Go watch a show from 10 years ago and then turn on a congressional hearing. Go watch a show from 25 years ago and watch Elon Musk speak. It's the same thing, word for word. Now, the reason you didn't hear this from other people 25 years ago is they come after you and they try to put you in prison or kill you. And they sure as hell sue the living snot out of you. So I built all this for the attacks I knew was coming. And like I told you years ago, I said, I'm just waiting these people out, letting them attack me, absorbing the attacks. And I was very thankful that they had chosen me as one of their main enemies to attack. Because it's not going to deter me. And I understand Hegelian dialectics that if I could survive and just hold on, it would only make us that much stronger in the end and give us the true avant-garde gleam that we have. Because we are avant-garde. The avant-garde of the avant-garde. So this is all God's plan. And God, I told you 25 years ago, told me all this. And I've been saying this on air. That there'd be this great awakening and that this would all happen. And then God tells me, literally the Holy Spirit, cover this, cover that. Don't harp on that. Don't defend yourself too much. Whatever the plan is, because it's from outside of me, this knowledge. I'm just a receiver. All right, finish up with the congressman on this, and I want to play the CIA whistleblower. She ran operations, major level, telling you the specifics of it. Here it is.
I think it's going to get better. And if you're wondering who's in charge of Afghanistan getting the money, and that money I just mentioned, the $697 million is on top of, and is in addition to the weekly to every 10-day shipments in cash of $40 to $80 million. Afghanistan is ruled by folks named Sarajuddin Haqqani. The Haqqani network mean anything to anybody in the room? How about Abdullah bin Laden? Who gets some of that money? Does that name ring a bell to anybody in the room? Because your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds madrasas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Bokoharam, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding. If you think that the program under Operation Enduring Sentinel entitled Women's Scholarship Endowment, which receives $60 million annually, or the Young Women Lead, which gets about $5 million annually, is going to women who, by the way, if you read the Inspector General's report, is telling you that the Taliban does not allow women to speak in public. Yet somehow you're believing, and American people are supposed to believe, that this money is going for the betterment of the women in Afghanistan. It is not. You are funding terrorism, and it's coming through USAID. And it's not just Afghanistan, because Pakistan's right next door. USAID spent $840 million in the last 20 years on Pakistan's education-related program. It includes $136 million to build 120 schools, of which there is zero evidence that any of them were built. Why would there be any evidence? The Inspector General can't get in to see them. But you know what? We doubled down and spent $20 million from USAID to create educational television programs for children unable to attend the physical school. Yeah, they can't attend it because it doesn't exist. You paid for it. Somebody else got the money. You are paying for terrorism. This has got to end. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Now, that's not completely accurate. They found, and the news went to one in Afghanistan that was $167 million, a four-room concrete building built a few years ago that already had the roof fall in. So that's not true. They did build one shack. By the way, Trump just signed the executive order. He's about to have the press conference on tariffs, and he says he will name names in that. That's how I got confused. He's like, he's going to name names in his, but there's other. And so he keeps us guessing. I think the bad guys are even more confused. But since I mentioned her, here's Sarah Adams, high-level managing operations for the CIA. And, boy, she's been running around, making the rounds, really beating the drum. And I'm glad she has been the last 6 months, because that's why a lot of this is coming out. She's put a spotlight on it. Here's a clip of her.
The $40 million a week that comes on the airplane and comes into Afghanistan. So the plane comes in weekly. The amount of money on the plane weekly is $43 million to $87 million. But one thing I want Americans to understand is in that bucket of the $40 million we send each week, we are paying basically welfare to the Taliban martyrs' families. So every Taliban member who died during the war with us, the U.S. government is paying them a stipend, the family. So our families of Americans who died there aren't getting squat, but we are paying Taliban families for basically dying while attacking us.
Whoa.
Yes, we're funding that.
This is just enraging.
And, you know, I asked a couple of people that question straight out, like, do you not think this is not ethically correct? And actually one person gave me an answer of, well, it'll stop them from joining ISIS. I'm like, the Taliban guy's already dead. Like, they give you these bullshit excuses as to why they're funding, like, our enemies. So...
I think that's a huge problem in America to begin with, is making excuses.
For terrorist sympathizing and not paying attention to the fucking money.
You know, she looks like a smart lady. You don't understand that the U.S. government has been running what created al-Qaeda and ISIS since 1978? Zbigniew Brzezinski, it's public. It's not even debatable. I mean, you understand the CIA and Mossad funded and controlled the hijackers or whatever they did on 9/11. That's like Fox News came out in 2001. You understand Israel created Hamas, right? That's what our governments do. They're criminal. The Israeli government does horrible, nasty, criminal stuff. The British government does it. The U.S. government does it. They all do it. They're all in the same sick club. I don't hate the British people. I don't hate the Canadian people. I don't hate the American people. I don't hate the Jewish people. What I hate is this criminal globalist cabal. And what Israel and groups like that do, people running it, is they go fund and finance the white supremacist groups and the patriot fronts and people running Super Bowl ads to buy their swastika shirts to create the illusion that anybody criticizing Israel or anybody is a Nazi. Pretty smart and pretty disgusting. I just want to stop nuclear war and have prosperity and not have crooks running everything. Can I have that, please? I don't want to live by way of deception. How about by way of truth? By way of truth ye shall conquer. Lies. Stop it. You're going to get us all killed. It has to stop. We have to at least try to tell the truth and be good, or we will kill everybody. We're bad enough without trying to be evil. Just get it through your heads and stop it. You're too cute by half. Mossad, MI6, CIA. I mean, do you really think that woman doesn't know all that? I'm so sick of hearing, they're just incompetent. They don't know that's what they didn't know when they gave $86 billion of weapons in the pullout, that would end up being used in Syria. But they didn't know. They didn't know the spike protein would turn off people's white blood cells and give them vaccine-induced AIDS. That's just what it does. They knew 45 years ago. That Alex Jones, he's really whacked out, yeah. He just talks fast. That's just a bunch of gibberish coming out of his mouth. Bullshit.
Oh, the CIA is just so stupid. We didn't know that it was going to tear us. We didn't know that money for farming, for crops, 90% of what they grow is opium. We didn't know either.
I see you. Ladies and gentlemen, I am taking the deep state on at point blank range with my intrepid crew. We have had such devastating effects together. Our information about how the globalists operate has never been more well received in the world. We are reaching tens of millions of new people a day, not just here, but all over this planet. And all glory goes to God. But God has worked through you to keep us on the air this long. So, right now, it is critical that everyone make a decision. Is InfoWars and Alex Jones and his crew something that we need to preserve in this critical time to back the Trump agenda to fully dislodge and take down the globalists? The answer is obviously yes. Now, we make it easy for you to support us with incredible products at thealexjonestore.com. And people love the limited edition coins. Well, we now have the latest coin. And this is one of my favorites. And the last coin that came out sold out in a week. This coin is amazing as well. Tip of the Spear, InfoWars Veteran Limited Edition fundraiser coin, pure silver, made and minted right here in America, in Missouri, designed by me. On one side, it features the coiled rattlesnake around a spear with InfoWars veterans, 1997 to 2025. That's when I coined the name InfoWars. I was on air before that. And tip of the spear, boldly inscribed, this coin symbolizes the fight for truth and freedom. The reverse side, or the head side, a Spartan helmet with your shield or on it, meaning if people died, they would get put on the shield and carried back. But sometimes if people were getting beaten, they would throw their weapons down and run, but not Spartans. So it means you come back with it or on it, don't throw it down. The women would tell them that on record. You better come back with your shield or dead. Do you understand? Never surrender, victory or death, Molon Labe. This is calling for courage against tyranny and standing with the patriots, because you are the tip of the spear. This coin is more than silver. It is a symbol of the resistance and a historic memento and a wonderful keepsake and or gift. Get yours today. Get them for friends, family, and others that you know have fought hard against tyranny. Hell, you want to support us? Get a few extras. The next time you see some great patriot you know, maybe Tucker Carlson on the street, Joe Rogan, Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, anybody, Give them one. This is how peaceful revolutions are financed, is people getting historic mementos. The founders had special mint coins that were collectibles to fund the war. I just go back and look at history, and I do the same thing. People say, where did you come up with these ideas? From history. Those that don't know history are doomed to repeat it. The people perish for lack of knowledge. Here, limited edition, Tip of the Spear, InfoWars Veterans Limited Edition. All of you that supported, all of you that fought tyranny, you are veterans of the InfoWar. It'll go fast. We need the funds. Take action now at thealexjonesstore.com. And over 400 designs of T-shirts, ball caps, hoodies, sweaters are at thealexjonesstore.com. And the latest I designed is a beautiful, I like the red one best. You also have it in black and white. Big balls with 47 on the side. And if that's not what you want, we got biggest balls. Oh, and it's a great conversation starter. It's hilarious. This whole big balls thing they thought was discrediting, blow up in their face. So we certainly love to use things they think that will defeat us against them. Get your